I promised my wife I would have a nice week or two relaxing with her and the kids to make up for the fact that I was absent for the last 3 months. But when I heard about this conference, I thought it's too important to miss. So I'm so grateful to be here and to hear all these stories. I should reintroduce myself. I'm introduced and I'm known by my name Ashley Perry, but my real name is Ashley Pereira Perez. That is the name that I was born by. Mostly around the world, when I say that, I'm met by either disbelieving looks or sort of, where did you get that name from? Where did Jews have such a Spanish-sounding name? I am from the Spanish and Portuguese community in London, and I always say whenever I meet Anousim, I always say the difference between myself and them is chance, it's timing. My family, thank God, managed to get out of Spain and Portugal, I think, pretty early on after the expulsion, not at the beginning of the Inquisition, because the Inquisition had already been going for 100 years, if I remember my history correctly. But the difference is timing and chance. My family managed to get out, went to Amsterdam, and as an earlier speaker said, was one of the few families that were personally invited by Oliver Cromwell to set up the British Jewish community, and that's how I have this accent, so excuse me. We've heard a lot of, sorry?
Forgiven. Okay.
We've heard a lot of experts, a lot of academic theories. As someone who likes to think they know a little bit about the story of the Bnei Anousim and the story of Anshe Sfarad, I'm always amazed when I actually meet the people who really, who found out about their Jewish roots, who returned to Judaism or the Jewish people. I'm in awe of them, because when I hear those stories and I think to myself, how many of my friends who are born Jewish would have gone through these ordeals? I'm not so sure. So it's really, not in a patronizing way. I take my hat off to you. It's an amazing journey. It's an amazing story, and I'm constantly inspired. What I wanted to talk a little bit about tonight is, I work in politics. I work in the sort of outside of the theoretical world, let's just say. And I thought to myself a long time, how can we achieve two things which I think are extremely important, especially at this day and age? There are two communities I believe that we need to outreach to. We need to get this story out, because as someone earlier in the day said, if you go to the streets of Netanya or any place in Israel, or perhaps even the streets of New York or anywhere there's established Jewish community, and you talk about the Bnei Anousim, those that have even heard of the issue will automatically think back to 1492, think about the 15th century, maybe the 16th century, and then the issue died. They don't know that there are Bnei Anousim today. They don't know that there are, from what I understand, I'm sure there are academics who could correct me, around 100 million people with Jewish ancestry. Is that correct? More or less? Maybe it's an absurd number to some, maybe it's too low, too more. Too low? Too low. So even greater. So I think the first people that we have to reach out to is again, correct me if I make a misstep in my terminology, but the normative Jewish community. The state of Israel doesn't know about this issue. The normative Jewish community doesn't know about this. The Jewish leadership doesn't know about this. We have to find ways of getting it to them. I've worked with many of the Jewish and Zionist organizations, pretty much all the alphabet soup of organizations, WJC, EJC, Conference of Presidents, B'nai Brit, et cetera, et cetera. I can tell you they don't know about this issue, and we have to make them aware. We have to put them on the map. We have to allow them to say to our brothers and sisters, and hearing all these names today, Rodriguez, Cardozo, Lopez, they're in my family tree. So when I talk about brothers and sisters, really, I'm being literal as well as figurative. But we have to reach out to those communities. We have to let them know that there is this issue, and the next person, the sort of descendant of Jews who knocks on the door of a rabbi, whether it's in Latin America, whether it's in North America, whether it's in Europe, they have to understand the issue, and they have to embrace them, not turn them away. Because I'm hearing too many stories about rabbis and Jewish communal leaders who are turning our brothers and sisters away. And after, what are we talking, 500 years plus, it's time to change the paradigm a little bit and welcome our brothers and sisters with open hands. Now, another area, obviously, is the Jewish state and the Jewish government, and I'll talk a little bit about that. The second group of people which we have to talk about are the Bnei Anousim themselves, those descended of Jews forcibly converted or otherwise. And we have to let them know that the arms are extended, that there are people within the official Jewish normative established world who understand the issue, and now it's time for them to come home. I know so many people who I've met on Facebook, in different groups or whatever, who just, they've created their own communities because they've given up on us. And we have to say to them, please don't give up on us. Give us one more chance, because we're ready now. With the technological advances that we have in the 21st century, we don't necessarily need to reach out one by one. We don't need to go to these places. There are answers online. There are answers in our laptop. There are answers in our iPads, and there are answers in our smartphones. So I want to return a little bit about the Israeli government. And I've had the honor to work in the Israeli government for the last 6 or 7 years. And for the last 6 or 7 years, I haven't really been allowed to express my own opinions because I've sort of been a mouthpiece for the government. But when I resigned my position in the foreign ministry in January, as Professor Gross mentioned, I wrote this article in the Jerusalem Post. And the title was, I know it's controversial for many, but I wanted it to be controversial, was Undoing the Inquisition. First of all, you can Google it and you can find it. I'm going to sort of paraphrase some of it today. What I believe the state of Israel needs to do, and it needs to do under this new government immediately, is we need to take the Spanish and the government laws. Everyone is familiar with what I'm talking about. These laws that say that anyone who is descended from the Jews who were expelled is able to try and obtain Spanish and Portuguese citizenship. I've checked, apparently I'm able to, even though I have a British passport, so European citizenship doesn't do me any particular good. But I think the Israeli government needs to do something simple. We need to take these laws and we need to replicate them by the government of the State of Israel. We need to say, because at the end of the day, it's very nice that the Spanish and Portuguese governments are doing this. They're saying, you know what, there was a historical error, maybe it's time we made some recompense. But surely, to really undo this historic injustice, these people, you, your friends, your family, other people around the world, don't need necessarily to return to the Iberian Peninsula, they need to return to the Jewish people. So we should make either a new law or an amendment to a new law, and I've spoken to a few senior politicians about this, and there is a pretty positive reception. We need to amend either the law of return or create a new law saying, like the Spanish and Portuguese laws, that if you can prove Jewish ancestry, you can prove some sort of familial traditions, then it's time to come home. And there are obstacles. Obviously, I'm not going to simplify it tonight and say it's so easy. All we have to do is a stroke of a pen, and then everyone comes home. There are precedents. One of the greatest precedents is the Flashamura. Does anyone know who they are? The parts of the Ethiopian Jewish community who were forcibly converted a couple of generations ago. Rav Avadia Yosef, Zechariah Levacha, who passed away recently, made a ruling when they were first sort of put on the map, the Ethiopian Jewry. He said that these people are able to come home. They have to go through what was defined as a Giyur L'Chumrah, like some sort of conversion. They can come here not under a tourist visa, which I know a lot of people have had problems with, but they can come here with the intention of converting, and then they can become fully fledged Israelis. There are many other precedents, the Mashadi Jews of Iran, the Subotnikim. There really is a whole lot of, so I don't see why we can't do that for the Bnei Anousim. Absolutely don't see it. So I think that we should do this. It's time to rectify this historic injustice, and rather than saying, you know what, our brothers and sisters should be able to return to Spain and Portugal, first of all, it's time to return to the Jewish people, perhaps even the Jewish state. If you obviously want to, these people want to stay where they are in their communities, we welcome them back. But first of all, let's welcome them back to the Jewish people. And with that, I thank you very much.